warm day for practice here on Washington Football Live. Julie Donaldson and Santana Moss previewing the Eagles. I can't believe it's going to be here before we know it. So taking a look at how their defense, Philadelphia's defense, stacks up. Pretty good, basically. Yeah. Defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz was former Lions head coach. And well, if we're talking about the O's, this is presented by Fedex. They had the handshake gate, can I say that correctly? Yeah. With Jim Harbaugh says no, so you don't really want to mess around with him. He's here to just play ball. 2019, their defense was pretty darn good. Third against the rush, less than 100 yards a game is what they gave up. They were 10th in total yards allowed, and third down efficiency was 4th in the league. If we were to talk about what Washington did, well, just go to the bottom. Guess why they only had 3 wins and why Ron Rivera was brought in to try and turn this around. And well, they did get better as well because they brought in Darius Slay, which was with Detroit, and Terry McLaurin had a pretty good game against him last season, but their front was not the same as he's going to have being playing behind the front of the Eagles as well. So that's probably going to make him a little bit more challenging. The 3-time Pro Bowler Fletcher Cox, 5-time Pro Bowler for the last 5 seasons. Brandon Graham, 8.5 sacks in 2019. So I just listed off a whole bunch of names and a whole bunch of stats of just how good that they are and the challenge that Scott Turner is going to have. If you're going to say, though, what is the best part of Philadelphia's defense, though, Santana, which part are you scared of?
I would say the front 4. You know, you talked about those guys, Barnett, Cox, Graham, and now Hargrave. You know, those guys have, they actually was the group that basically gave them that push to the postseason a couple of years ago when they won the Super Bowl. And just coming back off of the season that they've been having the last few years, they've been the forefront guys that's been leading the way on that defensive side. Look, those guys in the back end has been ferocious. You know, they didn't look pretty good in the secondary for years, and they still got the job done because of those guys up front. And Fletcher Cox is one of the main names on that front line that leads the way.
Ronald Darby was at their secondary last season. He is now with this team, Washington. Should he be healthy, he's a nice addition to the secondary as well, and could be, have a big role in this game. So Slay didn't have the. I mean, look, Terry McLaurin was able to get the better from him. Can that be done again this time? Do you think Terry, like they have more film on Terry, can he still beat Slay with this defense?
I mean, one of the things that you have to ask for, from our coaching staff is to be creative. Everyone has the bullseye on Terry this year. So with Slay being the all-pro bowler that he is, I'm sure that they're going to say, hey, you take care of whoever we put you on, and he's probably going to be the guy. But at the same time, you have other guys on the team. So we have to be creative with what we do with our offense and set up things to get them looks and then beat them whatever way we can. It's about what you're not doing good at or not doing well. And I think if we're going to let one guy dictate what we're going to do offensively, then we shouldn't be anybody. So Slay going to be Slay. He's going to do what he's do. He still can get beaten because he's a man. And he put his shoes on, his pants on the same way every other man does. But at the end of the day, offensively, collectively, with all the guys that we have, someone's going to get the job done.
All right, taking a look at some of the receivers out there in practice right now. One of the reasons that their defense is probably fresh and able to make so many plays is because Philadelphia's offense was one of the best. They were top 3 in controlling time of possession. I feel like last season, every time I would look at this stat, Washington was terrible because it was just constantly 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And the defense never got any rest. Their offense certainly helps out the defense and keeping them fresh.
And that's one of the things that you can give credit to their coaching staff on the offensive side and having a quarterback like Wentz. We saw time and time again that Wentz, his escapability and the things that he did down the field with his arm and with his legs gave them those extra chances.
12th in sacks per pass attempt, 24th on the interception rate. Who would you say, and I know you keep listing position groups, but who would you say is their best player on defense?
Well, I spoke about Fletcher Cox because I think he's one of those guys that they lean on when it comes to making plays in the front. Out of those front 4, that whole defense is great in the run and the pass, but I'll have to say that front 4 as a whole. I can't just give it to one guy. I think they put enough pressure on quarterbacks and they play well in the run game to make you have to do things that you're not comfortable with doing on the offensive side. So I can't give it to one guy because, like I said before, that back end of their defense wasn't playing very well, and the front end got it done. And I don't think it's just one guy was been able to do that job by itself.
We'll be able to see how this offensive line comes together. I know they feel pretty confident in the right side of the line. There's just a little bit of the left side trying to come together, hoping to improve every single day in practice to be able to give Dwayne Haskins Jr., which was named officially as QB #1. I think it was easy to tell that that was the path and the direction that they were going throughout the entire time. But you have Scott Turner coming in here now in charge of the offense, and he's been very, very coy in trying to release any part of his game plan and not wanting to give anything away. That's the first thing that they say is we're not giving Doug Peterson anything to work with for here. If from what you do know of his offense, how does he end up winning this game?
I think, like I alluded to before, you have to be creative. You have to make sure that.
So what does that mean? Because we've seen a couple times where there's a couple running backs on the field at the same time.
There you go.
I mean,
you know
is it more than that though?
I mean, it's definitely more than that. But when I say creative, creativity is not about fooling a guy. It's about showing them something that they didn't expect. Every staff has basically your playbook, what you did the last 4 or 5 years. So they're doing all this studying preseason, knowing that week 1, this is what they was good at. This is what they have a high percentage chance of doing when they played over here in Carolina. Now they're in Washington. So they're going to take those notes and say, this is what to be expected. What you have to do is show them what they want to see and do something a little different. So that's what about being creative. You don't have to go out there and fool a guy. No, show them what they want to see, but draw something else up. Make them think that I'm going to give you that Hawaiian punch and I'm going to give you the banana in the tailpipe.
The banana in the tailpipe?
Yeah, you don't know about the banana in the tailpipe.
Doesn't sound
Fooled
like.
you once, fooled you twice, you just a fool.
Everybody's a little bit excited to see what Turner brings here. Kevin O'Connell was the offensive coordinator at the end of last season, but he moved on as they brought in Turner. Turner says that look, he took a lot of his offensive course from his dad Norv, and it is a number system. It's relatively easy for Haskins to be able to get, but in order for it to be effective, Haskins has to be able to have a little bit of time.
Got to make plays too.
And it's the decision making that they want, because they want this to be much more up tempo than it was last season. And the decision making that I can't hear enough from the coaches on it. They've been very pleased with the camp that Haskins has had. And he lost weight, which he says is going to help him be much more dynamic. He might be on the run a little bit with this front.
Yeah, you never know. And I think one of the things Haskins can't get caught up into showing people that he can elude defenders. We didn't bring him here to do that. We want him to be that guy that can be precise and find those guys down the field like he has shown that he can do. So if he can put that on the back burner and just make sure he get rid of that ball, then he give himself and save himself for the next play.
If you're to come into this game and start, do you feel like you need to establish the run first, knowing that they're so good against the run, or do you feel like you want to be able to know that you can try and throw on them?
You have to be able to do both. I think you can't do one without the other. I've been a guy for many years. Being a receiver, you always think that the receivers, I know I'm not a diva. I heard plenty of times they talk about receivers as divas. I was one of those guys like, let's get this run going, because I understand that, when you do so, now you're bringing those guys up. Now you're seeing more one-on-one matchups, and now you can go out there and have a better look. I hated being that guy that had to have a cloud over me because you're not doing one of the other things well, and that's running the football. So with that being said, if you can do both, then you give yourself a chance.
In their last game against the Eagles in December, they actually threw first on the one. They had Haskins go through that, and they had Adrian Peterson. The running backs here in Scott Turner's system, they're not just. You do have Adrian Peterson and Peyton Barber pretty much backing him up, but you have a lot of the running backs for Turner. They stress that you have to be able to throw to them as well. So that's going to make the run game very interesting as we do head into this game.